Hello and welcome to Real Quick episode 36. Today we have a Patreon movie review, a movie suggestion by Ben Hansey, one of our great Patreons. Thanks very much to him. If you haven't checked out our Patreon benefits before, please feel free to hit the link in our bios. Look for the benefits, look if there's anything that appeases you. The Discord is really, really good. We've got some great benefits on there at the moment, and we have been active across all our socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and of course Letterboxd, which George is updating as well. So follows and all that. We appreciate all the support so far. Without further ado, today we have a film review, Blowout. So Brian De Palma's Blowout came out in 1981. I haven't seen this. I don't think any of us have watched this before. This has been on my watch list for months, and it was my this week, so I definitely took the opportunity to choose this, and it really, really worked in my favor. I know how George thinks of it. I don't know how Tyler thinks of it yet, but George, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm like really happy.
Spoiler free, like
spoiler free. I was going to start by saying I'm really happy that like this was one of the perks that we decided to include in our Patreon definitely. Because it's like Blowout has been on my watch list forever. Apocalypto is on my watch list forever. So like we're just checking off a lot of movies that like maybe I would never have gotten around to because of that. So shout out to the Patreon. Shout out to you guys for recommending these movies that all of us should watch. I loved Blowout. I really did. I feel like it's becoming a saying of mine where I think there's beauty in simplicity, because this movie really was super tight, super small scale. It doesn't waste any minute of its hour and 48 runtime. John Travolta, I think, is really solid as the lead. I think, what's his name? John Lithgow was also very solid in this movie. I liked its dark nature. I like that. It was presented in a very interesting way, because John Travolta's character is, the sound editor, and he kind of gets coerced or thrown into this.
You want me to run through the synopsis?
Yeah, you can run through the synopsis if you want.
Jack Terry, obviously played by John Travolta, is a master sound recordist who works on grade B horror movies. Late one evening, he is recording sounds for use in his movies when he hears something unexpected through his sound equipment and records it. Curiosity gets the better of him when the media becomes involved, and he begins to unravel pieces of a conspiracy as he struggles to survive against the shadowy enemies and expose the truth. He does not know who he can trust. George, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so exactly what you just said. It kind of unravels in a very psychological way where you don't know, who you can trust. You don't know where John Travolta is going to be going next. I just think that provides a lot of tense moments, a lot of suspense throughout this movie that I really enjoyed. I'm not crazy familiar with like Brian De Palma's filmography outside of like Psycho and Scarface and Carrie.
Have you seen
Mission Impossible
Carlito's Way?
Wait, hold on. I heard Mission Impossible 1. Yes, I did not know Brian De Palma do that.
Yeah, he did. Have you seen Carlito's Way? The one with Al Pacino? Great, you did that.
Okay.
He also did The Untouchables, which is the one with Robert De Niro playing Al Capone, Kevin Costner, Sean Connery. Really good.
Okay, never saw that.
Definitely get more. You'd like a lot.
No, because the reason I bring that up is because I did see a lot of reviews for Blowout where they're saying, Brian De Palma pulls out all of his tricks in his bag. Like this feels like he's bringing together a lot of elements of his previous films into Blowout, and like I can't speak on that because I'm just not crazy familiar with his filmography. But for what Blowout was, I really enjoyed it. It was really tight, hour and 48 minutes of suspense and thrills that I really enjoyed. I love the psychological aspect of it, and I think John Travolta as our lead was maybe one of his best performances.
Yeah, I probably would say it's his best from what I've seen. Anyway, Tyler, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I would agree. It's probably the best I've seen of him. I think he is actually like a very, very, very good actor. Like there's plenty of times I've seen him and stuff where I'm like, yeah, he's actually, because I feel like maybe it's just me. I feel like he's been like a little memed in his later years, like maybe the past decade or so. Because of Grease, like it kind of ages a little goofy, and like in that, which I love the show, like the American Crime Story, O.J. Simpson, where he's playing that lawyer. He like had kind of a goofy role. So I think a lot of people started to not take John Travolta the most seriously.
He did a lot of like bad films, I think. And
right, but this is like, if you're in that camp of thinking John Travolta's like campy and not great, watch this, because I thought he was incredible, which was equally rivaled by his, counterpart, you could say, in John Lithgow, who is just chilling, and I loved his performance. Basically, for me, this movie is like Kimmy from last year if it was done good. Like, like where there's like it's basically like kind of like a guy is just doing his job and then overhears some crime, and then from there gets kind of raveled into it because he heard it and he's like, I can't just let this sit idly by. I got to figure out what's going on here. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's my rating on it's going to be between a 4.5 or a 5. I haven't gone through my spreadsheet to know exactly where it's going to land. It's very similar to Sound of Metal for me, where it's like the whole movie I was watching, I was like, this is a 4.5 out of 5 movie. And then like the final scene or the final shot like just stuck with me and was so impactful that I was like, fuck, that might push it to a 5. I don't know. So I'll figure out where exactly it lands, but love this movie. Like George was saying, it's tight. It's like hour 45 or something. No time's really wasted. Even it's a slow burn, yet no time's wasted. It doesn't drag. It doesn't feel like it's, it doesn't feel like a slow burn while it is a true slow burn. So that's always a positive. But yeah, I thought the performances were all great. Just the whole plot of it and being someone who's recording sounds for horror movies, like it's just such an interesting, unique plot that just sends him down the spiral of conspiracies, backstabbing, you never knowing what's going on or who to believe, and it brings it all the way to the end, which is just I don't know, that final scene just sticks with me when he's watching the movie at the very end with the final edit, which we'll I guess talk about when we get more spoilers, but that just chilling, and I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to definitely give it a rewatch at some point because I had a very good time with it.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, same. I've said it before, but like it's quite rare that I give a 5-star on first watch. Now this just, I don't know, man. It's one film just comes along. This was kind of like made for me. It's just fit my taste perfectly. I just loved it. I'll probably watch it again this week. It's like, I think this would be a new film that I can just rewatch over and over again and become. I said on my review, it's just an instant favorite of mine. I love the dark mystery. It never lacks suspense or actually entertainment. It is. I don't want to use the term slow, but like Tyler said, it is slow in the best way, where it's there's always this on edge feeling. It's this meticulously crafted, mystery, which there's so much little detail. The use of sound is just phenomenal. I love it. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed, there's like 20 split diopter shots in the film as well. They're just so good. Some of the shots in this are just amazing. And I think I said in my review, it's like arguably a landmark in cinematic paranoia. Political cynicism, which obviously we'll go into. There's a lot in terms of looking at the US government at the time, especially there as well, and just the use of sound. I think on a technical level, I can see people loving this, but I think on a technical level, in terms of the use of sound, in terms of the shots, it just blew me away how good it was. And I think I've noticed this from I think I've seen like 7 Brian De Palmas, so I'm not like he's done a lot of films. I'm not crazy versus his filmography at all. But from the films I have seen, he has this feel of film, the way he gets his actors to reach out dialogue, the way his films are shot, the split diopter shots, the dark mystery, and I just think it was so much fun, so much entertainment. And it was a 5 out of 5 for me, which is something that happens often. I think the last time I actually gave a 5 out of 5 on first watch was Tar, I think, which was January or something like that. I just loved it. I think it was amazing, and it will definitely become a favorite of mine going forward. Is there anything else anyone else wants to touch on before we go into like the spoilers? I don't know where we want to start with the spoilers.
Just like I guess like going on the technical stuff you were talking about, there's so many shots in this movie where it's just a long, lingering shot that was you're just following one subject, and there's so many instances where there's something going on in the background, and just there's so many cool shots like that where. It's just slowly following one character, and you kind of look in the background, and you're like, oh shit, okay. And like you're saying, just a masterclass in suspense. It just builds to it. I love the cinematography, love the sound editing. For 1981, just crazy technical aspects in this movie.
Did you guys like the opening scene as well with the horror movie? Like the shot of the guy with the point of view in the opening scene. Like, I love how he's doing the sound for these, low tier horror films, and he kind of utilized that way of sound. So obviously what happens is, I'll go into a little bit of how we get into this mystery. He's on a bridge recording sound, recording like the wind and stuff for his horror film. He sees a car coming down the road. The car kind of crashes, or at least what he thinks is a blowout, a tire blowout. Falls into the water, but he also, when he's re-recording the sound, we see a guy, don't we, below the bridge who's underneath him. We see a guy with a camera there. Obviously, what happens after that is he goes on this whole mystery because he re-listened to the kind of the footage, and he's kind of re-listened to the footage, and he's heard a gunfire, or at least what sounds like gunfire throughout. One thing I wanted to ask you guys is, what do you take from the ending? So before going into the rest of it, John Lithgow is obviously the main antagonist here. And the ending, obviously this is spoilers, so if you do want to watch the film, don't listen. The ending, obviously we see John Lithgow, he basically is captured his, do we know the actress's name? I can't remember the actress's name.
I just had it up. Nancy Allen.
Interestingly, by the way, I don't know if you guys knew this. She was actually Brian De Palma's like girlfriend at the time when he hired her.
Interesting.
And he actually hired her in a couple of films as well. A lot of people don't like that because a lot of people don't like her performance. And I will say, Nancy Allen, it wasn't the best performance I've ever seen.
It didn't pull me. I never.
I didn't hate
it for being
a lot of people. A lot of people hate.
She was just like overly dramatic, but I feel like that's just like the '80s in a nutshell.
I agree, and this is why I thought Tyler, you wouldn't like it because obviously you didn't like Shelley Duvall's performance in The Shining. This is kind of what I would relate to in a way, where it's kind of the over-the-top performances. But yeah, John Lithgow's the antagonist. He captures her at the end, and then obviously the final shot of John Lithgow, who is obviously the killer. We see John Travolta go and kill him himself. What did you guys take from that scene?
The final shot?
Yeah, the final shot.
I thought the final shot wasn't the final shot him in the theater watching the
oh,
movie?
sorry, the final.
Yeah, listening to
the final shot before that.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Nathan?
It sounds like you have some like big takeaway from it, so I'm kind of curious to what you're thinking.
Well, I don't know, man. Because what I was basically reading is it goes from political cynicism. So we see a lot of the cynicism throughout the film in terms of the government, in terms of kind of corruption in a way. Because it's obviously all covered up. And basically what I've seen at the end is kind of how, I don't know if this is true or not, it might be just a complete synopsis. It's John Travolta's actions at the end where he stabs John Lithgow is kind of a story in a way about how obviously the government wants to retract in this kind of hypocrisy in a way because he kills him at the end. Does that make sense? This is kind of what I've read online. But I also think that this film is one where it kind of, you get in what it says on the tin in a way. You're not really. I don't think there's really much that goes underneath the surface with this. What do you think?
Like you don't think there's like any hidden detail here? You think everything?
I think there is in terms of governmental factors, but I don't know if the ending means. I don't see that from the ending.
I didn't pull anything deeper away from the ending. I just thought it was to me. I didn't like. And again, I didn't like. Sounds like you were like kind of like looking up some of the viewers' reviews. I didn't do any research after this.
Up, like explained.
Yeah, like that, for sure. And I didn't get to that for this one, so I don't know. For me, I just thought it was a very very well done thriller. I didn't really personally on first watch get like any deeper stuff. It makes sense what you're saying about like political cover ups. Is the whole thing is kind of them trying to cover up the whole initial blowout. And all that unfolds from that, and then by the end of it, he's John Lithgow, the serial killer. He's trying to kill him, and that could be kind of what you're saying. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't pull anything deeper from the ending, I guess.
Interesting. George, you feel the same? Because I'm probably with Tyler in that regard.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think this movie warranted like excessive research after it, the way something like maybe a Tar or an After Sun did,
like a Burning did.
Yeah, exactly. Like Burning, I was reading about after, but this movie, I don't know. I felt like everything was fairly straightforward. I don't think there was a lot to uncover. I think there was a lot of detail throughout this movie that kind of builds up towards that ending. So everything that kind of culminates makes sense. It's not like, I don't know. Go for it.
Someone did actually say that if you notice, there's a lot of use of color in this film in terms of red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
And someone said that could be a use in terms of De Palma apparently used this in quite a lot of his films. I'll have to rewatch them in terms of blind patriotism and the use of that in terms of the corruption of the government at that time, which I think is quite interesting. I think that's a really, really good feature. I didn't notice that on first viewing. But again, I feel like this might be a film I have to rewatch. I kind of just saw it as it shows you the corruption. If that makes sense. It shows you the corruption throughout.
Like this movie came out, of course, like during like Cold War times, so a time where people are very, a lot of geopolitical tensions going on throughout the world that could lead to some, blind patriotism because it's very much like, oh, if you're not with us, you're against us.
Yeah, that's kind of how I saw it from it as well. But I think for me, the most impressive thing, like I said before, were the technical aspects. I think the story it was great, and the story definitely engaged me with the technical aspects in terms of the use of sound throughout, the use of kind of the blind paranoia we're seeing from John Travolta's character. And also, I don't know what you guys thought as well. I just didn't expect the ending to happen. I didn't expect it to go down that way. I think there were quite a few twists throughout that I didn't expect. I think overall the performances were really good. Anything else you guys want to add? I'm not sure if there's anything I need to go over at all.
I thought it was crazy that like I get it, like it's his job to record sounds for like horror movies, but using the scream of that chick is just a cracked move, and he's like clearly traumatized by it. So it's like, why are you doing that to yourself?
Yeah,
because he found the perfect sound. He's addicted to his craft. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
like,
kind of interesting,
but that's weird because like I don't know. I never got that from him. Like I never got that from John Travolta that he was like obsessed with this job because like I feel like at the beginning when like the screams, like, because they were watching the movie back, and then he's like, yeah, that's like the scream she gave me. Like, it didn't seem like he was like going out of his way to make it like the perfect scream. It just seemed like he was just doing his job. And at the end, he's like, got the perfect scream, boss. And then it's just like he's just looking at it like a Clockwork Orange, like terrified, crying, and it's like, bro, why are you doing that to yourself?
I'm kind of the same. I didn't see that he was so addicted to his craft almost that he would use that. But then you do look back at the conversations when he first meets, I can't remember her name. What was her name in the film?
Sally.
Sally. When he first meets Sally, he does explain that this has kind of been his life for a while. This is what he wanted to do for a while. So maybe it is that. I think that's an interesting way to look at it, George. It's like the addiction, because he finally uses that scream as a way to show it. Is that what you got as well? It was like,
honestly, I said it a little, not jokingly, but I'm kind of with Tyler here, and even you when you said I never got the feeling that John Travolta's character was necessarily like addicted to his craft. Like in the first scene, this guy's like basically yelling at him like, the scream sucks, like we've been working together for 2 years, blah blah blah, like I need a scream. And John Travolta's like, oh fuck, fine, all right, I'll fucking get it for you. And at the end, it's like I don't know, it just like came full circle where like he got his scream, but it was just in the worst way possible, and it's kind of fitting for his horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect. I just love the whole way it reconstructs like the whole story through the sound, and kind of seeing him uncover more details. You know, when you're seeing him working with the actual picture itself, seeing him change the details. I think it's a perfect piece of cinema in showing what can the use of sound and how far that can go. And like Tyler said, especially for the time, what did it come out? 1981?
81. Yeah.
81, okay.
81.
Especially for the time, we didn't really see, I can't think of any other film around that time that used sound that well, in my opinion. I don't know about you guys. I can't think of any other
that I can think
sound that well. There will be some, obviously, but I think it was kind of revolutionary. It did that. A lot of people recommended me also what's apparently similar in terms of the use of sound is Dressed to Kill. So that might be an idea for one of them, which is also a Brian De Palma film. And it also has Nancy Allen as the main character as well, which is apparently interesting. Yeah, I think she was in Carrie as well.
Was she really?
Yeah, she was Christine. I think she was one of the like school people in Carrie.
He just loved his girlfriend. I guess I don't know if there's
when I was speaking to someone about it, they said that like a lot of people have issues with that because he used to hire her obviously because he was with her, and a lot of people don't like her acting. But if you actually look for his filmography, she's probably in like around that period like 10 films and like main roles as well. That doesn't really bother me, but I kind of get.
Yeah,
I guess you just got to date the right person.
One thing I appreciate about this movie's use of sound is nothing like through like. So I watched this movie with headphones. There's so many scenes I would preemptively turn down because it'd be like he's trying to hear something, so he'd like turn up the gain on his mic. I was like, there's about to be something so loud in my ears, so I like turned my volume way down. But I think like the gunshot and the blowout part was like a loud kind of jump, but none of it like completely took me away. But I was like expecting fully to like hate parts of this movie where it's like he's turning up the gain, and I was like, oh god, they're just gonna bang.
Were you expecting it to be like the noise kind of in Sound of Metal, you know, at the end when it's things like
like it's
like a really loud,
like there'd be not only a loud thing would happen, but it'd be like his gains up so much, they'd be like loud plus like distorted, and I'd be like, oh god. But no, they did it well. They didn't make me want to throw my headphones off my head. So
it was quite like, it was bleak, but it was quite chill at the same time, wasn't it? It wasn't like an in-your-face kind of thriller where everything's just erratic all the time. It was kind of slowly, meticulously calculated until the end, where we saw it kind of all go to shit. But
good at building the suspense, like in the scene of like when he just finishes with the prostitute, and then he's like following Nancy Allen and like walking behind her. He's like, oh no, don't look back at me, we can't give our position away. And then they like get on the subway, and that scene was just so slow and slowly unfolding and developing that I was like, damn, this is a really good suspense building right now.
You guys haven't seen Dexter, have you?
No.
Because John Lithgow plays the main villain in season 4 of Dexter, which I think is one of the best seasons ever, or at least I've seen. And he is such a good actor, and this is like kind of the earlier years of him. But as an antagonist, I think he's so great.
He was great.
Like I really like him in this. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed it. I give it a 5 out of 5. George, you gave it a 4.5. Yep. And Tyler, you're like, if you had to guess,
it's probably gonna be like a 9.4 out of 10, 4.5
just
out of 5. Yeah, just under, which could go up on rewatch.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think I'll be probably rewatching this multiple times. I really enjoyed it. But as always, obviously, let me just get your name up. Ben Hansey, thanks for the recommendation. We appreciate it. As we spoke about before, we have many of the benefits like this on Patreon where you can recommend us films, as George said. I love that people can do this because we're watching things which have been on my watch list for ages, which I haven't pulled the trigger on, and like Burning, like Apocalypse with you guys, and like Blowout. So keep sending us in. We really appreciate it. Check the benefits on our Patreon. Nearly 1,000 ratings on Spotify to hit us there. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We're all being very, very active and trying to push out as much content as we can at the minute. Other than that, hopefully you enjoyed this review of Blowout, and we will speak to you all soon.